Well, hello everybody and welcome to Biking Buddies, the motovlog channel. We're out on a group ride today. As you can see, it's going to be baking hot. It's already baking hot, and it's also going to be a very special group ride. So as always, in fine Biking Buddies fashion, grab yourself a beer or two, make sure they're cold, grab a brew, even a bottle of wine, why not, and come with us on today's Biking Buddies super adventure. Let's roll VT.
Where do you go when you're young, when you're restless, when you're fun, cause you're desperate? Oh, here they come for a chance, for adventure. What's your poison, what's your pleasure?
Okay then folks, so that is the titles done and dusted. Let me explain in a little bit more detail, as always, what we're up to today. Okay, so at the top of the video there, I did say that this is going to be a special group ride. And for those of you that follow me on the YouTube channel, about a month or so ago, I uploaded a video which was doing a recce. And that recce was for a day where Pete, Hippo drones, all the way from down south, has come up to join us. And today is that day. So we're actually executing that route today. It's going to be an interesting one because this is only the second time essentially that I've been over this early part of the route. We're going to take in a few challenging sections and a few steady away sections and everything in between. So yes, as I say, you may need a beer or two. I'm sure this video is going to be a long one by the time it comes at you. It's going to be a long day for us, and it's certainly going to be a hot one. But one thing that is for sure, it's going to be fantastic. So what is the route then? Well, basically we're starting from Masham, as near as makes no difference, and we're going to go over Masham Moor, over in Moor, and then we drop down into Nidderdale. We climb steeply out of Nidderdale? We climb steeply out of Nidderdale, up over the tops, and we drop down over the utterly stunning Scar House Reservoir before we climb over the other side, over Dead Man's Hill, down into Arkleside, and then we're picking up some more familiar trails in and around the top side of Gilbert Lane, Semawater, and backside of Hawes, which is the High Cam Road and the Cam Road, before taking in some more gentle trails on the way back. So yeah, it's going to be a very varied day. Lots and lots of different trails, lots of different challenges for all of us, not just for Pete in a strange area, but as I say, also for myself. This is all new stuff, relatively speaking, certainly within the first parts of the ride. So we're climbing very steeply now up to Ilton. This is one of the fewer road sections that we have, and then we pick our next trail up, which is no doubt where the fun will begin. So this is our first climb up to towards the top of Masham Moor, and we're just working our way through the arable land with the sheep, as we can see, and working our way up towards a little bit more open moorland. So this first section's got quite a few gates in a relative quick succession before we pick those more akin open moorland trails. We're already starting to feel the rocky lumpiness, and that's something that is going to be a little bit new for Pete. Certainly riding down south, it does tend to be a lot of mud, silt and chalk, so this will be quite different for him, I'm quite sure indeed. And here we are, another gate. Okay, so we pulled up here just for a quick fluid stop. We're high up on Masham Moor, and as you can see around us, the sun is baking down the trail is absolutely tinder dry, but it's been fantastic so far. The trail's incredibly loose as well, and I think that's been very different for Pete, as expected. But you can see our little set of bikes there, so two T7s, myself and Stewie. We've got Richie out on the Husky 701, and Pete's out on the trusty steed of the Aprilia Touareg 660. So yeah, we're going to work our way across here before we start to take in the little bit more challenging and technical descent down into Scar House Reservoir, and then the infamous climb up Dead Man's on the opposite side. Okay, so that's Masham Moor pretty much done now. We're just dropping down towards the road section and then ultimately into Nidderdale. Wow, you can see how much these bikes are just skidding around with this loose surface, and the dust as well. The sand, which isn't ordinarily there, that's usually the water keeping that substrate together. So where the puddles are, we now have sand puddles to contend with, which is a little bit of a challenge in its own right. So a bit of road section now through the utterly beautiful mid-sections of Nidderdale before we climb high up onto the moor. And I'm sure we'll stop above Scar Houses just to take in the absolute majesty of where we are before we have that vicious descent down over Scar House Reservoir. Now, as you well know, I don't ordinarily film the road sections between the trails too much, aside of when the view and the scenery is utterly off the scale spectacular, and that's what we've got here, making this very steep descent down into Loft House and Nidderdale. And you really get a feel for how kind of, if this makes sense, how Postman Pat-esque the Yorkshire Dales is, with its lovely dry stone walls just interlaced across the valley side, the sun just bathing the valley, and these beautiful little ribbon back roads that just link the trails together. So the moorland that we can see in front of us, that's the one that we're heading for. I don't know whether you'll be able to pick it out on the GoPro, but we can actually see the track that climbs up over that hill. When we crest over the top, that's when we drop down towards Scar House Reservoir. So utterly stunning day. Do keep checking in with Pete. I'm very well aware that he's put a monumental effort in to get to us. He's had a best part of a 6-hour ride up yesterday after doing a night shift, grabbing a couple of hours kip. So yeah, it's a huge effort, and I'm very grateful, but equally incredibly humbled that he thinks it's worthy to come up and meet us, and obviously to ride in God's own country, which is Yorkshire. Okay, so this sees us just approaching the top section towards the Scar House Reservoir. We're going to pull up and have a bit of a breather stop there, and incidentally we're also going to have a little bit of a scout. I think Pete's wanting to get a bit of dronage, which is good. It's the perfect place for it. I think he's got his eye in now, as Pete is absolutely flying. Oh no, we're gonna go straight down. Whoops, nearly, there we go. Whoops, let's just, all right. We'll have 2 minutes here anyway. Pete. Bike will be fine there, to be fair. That's one way to park it.
Oh, is this that reservoir?
Yeah, this is the top of the steep bit down over the reservoir, and then the track that runs along is okay to the trees.
Yep.
And then from the trees up to the summit is kind of just the other side of the fold.
Yep.
It's quite steep, and it's not loose like this, but it's kind of rocks that are bedded in.
Yep.
So you kind of ping you and bounce you. But I mean, I've been up it once before, and to be fair, I'd say I probably rode 50% of it.
Yep.
The other 50% I was just a passenger.
Yep.
It's just kind of point and reacting.
Okay, I'll just keep your speed down and.
But yeah, we'll have 5 minutes here.
Yep.
Bit of a lid off chill. So we're just making the very tricky descent now down Scar House. It is incredibly steep and very, very loose. So it's important that we just give each other enough room and enough breathing space, because at the end of the day these are 200 kilo bikes coming down an enduro trail, and as I said, this is all completely alien to Pete. What an unbelievably beautiful place though. And there we are, we stay out of that rut. It's always an advantage when you're not leading. I did see that Pete was in that rut there and it looked a little bit chewy. So fortunately I had the option to then stay out of the rut. So yeah, he's off like a scalded cat now, Pete. No stopping the lad. No stopping the lad. I think he's well and truly averse with North Yorkshire trails. Wow. Slow the bike down, slow the bike down. So Rich has already scampered off and he's pretty much at the bottom. So down we come. It wasn't necessarily my chosen route, but it actually worked out quite well, going over those rocks. So yeah, the key with a trail like this is the momentum, keeping enough momentum to enable the bike to bounce over the rocks and obstacles, but not too much that the speed actually gets well away from you. And I must admit, it's impressive watching Pete there, to say he's never done this. And what was interesting speaking with him is just how alien this road surface is to him. Well, we're right on the crown of this rut. I can see me ending up in the bottom there shortly. There we go. Yeah, just how alien this surface is to Pete. He is a master of the mud and the chalk, but Yorkshire Dales, loose limestone and gravel and boulders, well, clearly that's something that's very different. Okay, so I would imagine, let's just have a quick glance behind me and just check that our number 2 Stewie, yep, Stewie's coming down, so we are all looking good. So this is an absolutely beautiful part of the Yorkshire Dales, absolutely stunning. I think it's very important when you're doing descents like that we know are going to be a little bit technical, a little bit challenging for everybody really on the bigger bikes, is just to give each other sufficient space, sufficient breathing space, just to ride your own ride without feeling the pressure of somebody hard up behind you. And there we are, nice one Pete, let's have a quick chat with him, see what his thoughts were. So as we come to the end of Scar House Reservoir, the down wall crossing, the next section is arguably the most challenging for all of us, particularly myself and Pete and Stewie, having never seen this trail before. So those of you that recognise the area, you will know we're at the foot of Dead Man's Hill. Very steep, very rocky, very loose, and yeah, quite a climb indeed. On an enduro bike it's a climb, but it certainly is on these mid-weight bikes, and I'm about to find out very shortly as I catch a rock with the front wheel and it pings me off the track. Thankfully, with heart in mouth, I managed to keep the bike leaning over to the left, which is definitely the high side. I certainly didn't want to be dropping the bike down there to the right hand side. So quick engine off, keep the bike in gear, as self-rescue, just walking that front wheel saw me in a position that I could get myself going as Stewie sweeps past, showing me exactly how it should be done. So a few minutes just to let Stewie clear and recoup myself. I set off, or tried to, but as ever, that novice element, just keeping the momentum down, gave me the result of a little bit of a stall there. So once I've got myself going again, up on the pegs, I can start to weave my way up the top sections of the first half of Dead Man's Hill. So it is quite loose and bouldery, as you can see, and it is a challenge, particularly when we were in 25 degrees of heat and no wind. Thankfully, halfway up the hill, the gradient just eases a little bit as we come up to the gate, and man was I glad to see the boys here, and man was I glad to see this gate. So after a bit of a regroup, we're off for the final section, which is arguably the steepest, but thankfully the looseness just beds down a little bit. So as you round the first two bends, the track starts to become a little bit more bedded in. Still balancing that momentum and throttle action. I'm aware that I'm the first in the pack now around this corner, and oh my, I don't know what the gradient of this slope is, but it certainly feels about 45 degrees. But thankfully there's quite a lot of concrete inlay here, and it isn't loose. You crest the brow to think you're done, and bam, you're into a boulder field. And again, that novice rider element shone through. I just eased that power down and lost all momentum. In reality, what I should have done here was just keep the momentum going and skip the bike over the rocks. Easier said than done, I fully appreciate that. So off I go. I'm very mindful now that I am the first rider up there, so I do need to be on my toes to get back down the hill, or certainly in a position that I can lend a helping hand should I need it. And as I turn around, lo and behold, I can see the sister T7 with Stewie. It looks like he's just caught a rock off balance and dropped the bike. So my initial thoughts straight away are for Stewie, obviously. Stewie's just had a little bit of wind knocked out of him. He's absolutely fine. Caught his ankle a little bit, that's giving him a bit of grief. But at this point in time, the hillside is completely silent. So I'll give Stewie a little bit of a brief. Engine is totally isolated, nothing wrong with the bike apart from the fact it's on its side. So I'll leave Stewie to gather his breath, and I'm walking back down Deadman's because I can still hear no bikes, and I'm starting to get a little bit concerned for Richie and Pete. Once I get back to that interim gate, I can see Richie's on Pete's bike, so that's initially a very good sign. It tells me that Pete isn't injured. Perhaps he just struggled with that little bit of a climb. Brand new territory for Pete, brand new terrain for Pete, and obviously the combination of all of that put together with the heat, as we can see, he was absolutely hooped, as we all were in fairness, coming up this hill. It was really good to see the boys, and it was really good to know and understand that nobody was injured. It was just a case of a bit of fatigue, a bit of unfamiliarity with the track, and Richie lending a helping hand just to get us up. And that's what trail riding is all about. You can't ride every trail, you've got to push yourself out of that comfort envelope, and that's exactly what we were doing here, in addition to helping and assisting each other and just generally getting through the day. And it was fantastic to be part of that. So Pete decided he was going to walk this next section because of all of the combination of the aforementioned. So as he's delayering, ready for the arduous climb, Richie opted to take the Touareg up the hill, and I would take the Husky 701, which would be quite new and interesting for both of us. So tentatively easing the clutch out on the mighty 701, off we go. It's always good to jump on a different bike just to experience it, but I would have liked to do it on a slightly easier trail to start with. But that said, the Husky 701, man, what a nimble machine this is, and straight away you could feel the lighter element of the bike. Just cresting into the boulder field then, I can see Stewie there, and I don't want to be dropping Richie's bike on top of Stewie's bike, so yeah, I just tentatively paddled the bike past Stewie. It was good to see that he was on his feet. That smile, that Stewie smile back on his face, so we knew again that everything was, relatively speaking, all well. So getting that Husky parked up, I'm also conscious now that we've got Richie on a strange bike coming up the hill, but Richie's skill sets being what they are, far more experienced than any of us, he just blasted that machine straight up the hill, making very light work of it indeed. Now the next detail is obviously to go give Stewie a hand, just assess the situation a little bit more. Feeling for Pete here, I'm well aware that he's dragging himself up this hill, it's baking hot, but we just need to sort Stewie out. He's very mobile here, absolutely nothing wrong with him apart from a little bit of a sore angle, so the next thing to do is check the old bike out.
So we get the bike up, and absolutely fantastic to see. There's a little bit of a scuff on the end of one of the bark bashers, and the rear crash bobbin has got a scuff on it. Aside of that, absolutely no marks on the bike whatsoever. So I edited the rather undignified regroup at the top of the hill as we were all gasping for breath before we push on to our next section. Sadly, Stewie decided that his ankle just needed checking out, so off he went to the med centre, and I'm pleased to report post-ride that aside of a little bit of bruising, there was nothing wrong with the ankle, so lives to fight another day. This sees us start the next section, and boom, bird strike. Never had that one with the drone before.
And we're up on the tops now, plateauing across, heading ultimately towards Semawater, Bainbridge and the Hawes general area. Really, really good having Pete up on this ride, and absolutely fantastic being able to show him our area. Just the vast emptiness of it, just that Yorkshire Dales-ness of it really. And I think, as I said earlier, yeah, Pete's definitely got his eye in for these Yorkshire Dales trails. How could you not love this, eh? Just incredible. Right, so I reckon we're around about 3/4 of the way through our day, maybe 2/3, who really knows. So yeah, what the plan at the moment is, we're a little bit low on fluids, so we're going to stop at the next garage, top up on fluids. I'm sure there'll be an ice cream or an ice lolly or something involved, because man alive, it is hot today. Absolutely fantastic day, and I'm really, really pleased to report that every time I've touched base with Pete, he said that he's having an amazing time. He's loving it, loving the area, loving the scenery, but he is a little bit cooped up and hot in his full Gore-Tex gear. But that aside, yes, we couldn't have asked for better weather for the video, with Hippodrome's Pete coming up to see us in the fabulous Yorkshire Dales. Right you are then, folks, so we're up on the Roman Road now. Those of you that are familiar with the area, you will certainly recognise where I am. And we've come high up onto the tops, and we're going to make that descent back down into Wensleydale. But what is certainly nice is we've picked quite a bit of thermal breeze up as well. 25 degrees, that's pleasantly hot, but you certainly wouldn't want it any hotter, that is for sure. Do you know, I've got to say, this is incredible, just tumbling off the Roman Road or the High Cam Road with my mates in front of me there. We've got Richie and Pete, and we're just bouncing and ricocheting down this very loose and rubbly track. It is absolutely superb. What a day it has been and continues to be. And as I said, just showcasing this area off to Pete, as for me it's been just as good as the riding, and the riding has been absolutely off the scale brilliant today. Challenging in places, yes. Taking us outside of our comfort zone, yes. But thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyable, yes. Without shadow of a doubt. And when you've got a backdrop like this, riding down with your mates in convoy, yeah, it doesn't get much better than this. Oh, I'm really hearing some major impacts on this bash plate. I am so pleased that I upgraded to the Adventure Spec bash plate and took that toffee thing off that came with the bike. Why do dealers do that, eh? Give you absolute rubbish when they know that you're going to replace it anyway. And this is where the road dissects the Roman Road, and the Roman Road dissects the road. Whew! Enjoyed that. Shay! I'll get it! Okay, so this is where we have a teeny weeny little single track lane, disappears through these trees, and the lane is, that's a heavy gate. Wowzers. And the lane is literally as wide as the bike, not even that in places. So yeah, we'll disappear into the darkness, and let's go catch the boys. So it does get a little bit narrow as we go along, and the flies, man alive, it is one of those, you kind of got to do the narration without opening your mouth. Thank you, folks. But it's a lovely little lane. I really enjoyed this lane. Yuck, flies. Yeah, not really fancying a protein shake today. You certainly get an appreciation when you're following a bike, as we are with Pete in front, just how narrow the lane actually is in terms of the undergrowth being overgrown, under and over, and you just end up forging your way through these flowers and meadows. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like a rut that you can't even see. I mean, look at Pete, he's just forging his way through. This is mad. Love it. I really enjoy this lane. I'm not entirely sure, without any pruning, how much longer we're going to have access to this before it is just too overgrown and we physically can't see. Big old rock there. This is mad. Haha. So we're on cattle duty, the farmer is, I see, so we're pinned in. That is mad, isn't it?
Thanks being an X-Wing fighter.
Oh, I love it.
That's what I do back at home.
Yeah. Well then folks, that's us done and dusted. We are high up here on Redmire. This is our group. We're now depleted from 4 down to 3, so Stewie had to bail halfway around, as you saw. It's been an absolutely incredible day today. We've had the weather from the gods, a little bit too warm granted, trying to keep those fluids up, so it's been epic seeing Pete all the way up from sunny down south. He's definitely brought the weather with him. Monumental effort coming up here to see us, and it's been a pleasure riding with him and actually seeing the Turag in the flesh and meeting Pete in the flesh as well. Cheers to Big Rich as always on the Husky 701, just keeping us all where we need to be. So as always from me guys, thank you very much for your company. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Do drop a comment. I do my level best to reply to every comment that you guys leave. So the final thing to close the video out, high on Redmire Moor, wherever you are in the world guys, whatever you're doing, keep it safe, keep it shiny side up, and we'll catch you for the next one. Cheers folks, bye now, bye.